Adventure bikes have a weight problem. Now before the comments explode, hear me out. I'm not here to bash ADV bikes. I've owned them, I've ridden them, and honestly, I still think they're awesome. And in my opinion, it does take a lot more skills to ride ADV bikes than two-strokes.
Let me see the best way to get this guy. 1, 2, good. 1, 2, 3.
If your adventures are mostly highways, mountain passes, forest roads, BDR routes, and camping trips, sure, the ADV bikes make a lot of sense. But for the way I ride here in Colorado, weight matters a lot.
As you can see, I like having fun on my bike sometimes. But even this, I do feel the heat, especially if I'm going on slow technical terrain, crawling and stuff like that, unsure terrain. So entered the 302-stroke ADV build that I built. Now I'm just comparing it to the DRZ 400, but now I'm here on the KTM 300 Adventurized, quote unquote. I'm sorry to say, but this is way better than the DRZ 400. It actually has more power. To me, it's more smoother, and I wanted to have fun. I can. Guys, I got a bigger 4-gallon tank, but I also have a 41 rear sprocket, and this thing, look at this, 4th gear. I hate to say it, smoother than my KTM 500. Like on this low power band, the KTM 500 is not even like this. Isn't that crazy?
When you start talking about bikes that weigh 450, 500 pounds, or even 550 pounds, once they're fueled up and loaded with luggage, that's a lot of motorcycle to wrestle around on tight single track. And I know it sounds pretty crazy. Why would you even take an ADV bike on single track? The thing is, my mind automatically just starts defaulting to exploring single track and 50-inch trails. But we have a problem here in Colorado. We have too much dirt roads and too many trails that interconnect, and more on that later. Now take something like a KTM 790 Adventure. I'm using this bike because it's one of my favorite ADV bikes that I've ever ridden. To me, it was like a big giant dirt bike, but it's around the 470 pound mark fueled up. An Africa Twin is pushing around 500 pounds. A BMW GS, depending on the model, you're easily over 540 pounds. Now compare that to a two-stroke trail bike like my KTM 300 XEW that's roughly 230 pounds after I somewhat quote-unquote adventurized. That's literally over twice the weight. And if you ever ridden in Colorado single track, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's loads of loose baby head rocks, steep switchbacks, off-camber trails, route crossings, tight switchbacks with some awkward rock in between. Those awkward moments where you stall halfway up a hill climb and suddenly gravity has other plans. Every extra pound starts working against you.
Sorry. But yeah, I hate to admit there is a problem. For my riding style, ADV bikes have a weight problem for me. The KTM 500 even, I was like, it feels nice. It could have done all this single track no problem. But I still wanted something lighter if I got myself, in some gnarly situations or something. Even with the 4-gallon tank, this thing's insane. Like, it still feels good. It can cruise at 70 miles per hour, but I still wanted something lighter. And it's as funny as it sounds, the KTM 300, I put 41 rear sprocket. It has the big gas tank, but it's a 4-gallon. But here's the thing, it's my riding style. It's kind of designed for me. The problem with Colorado and a lot of these western states, the public lands, the problem with these areas is there's a lot of dirt county roads where, yeah, you could be on 6th gear and 65 miles an hour on that dirt road.
Now, like I mentioned, out of all the adventure bikes I've ridden, my favorite was probably the KTM 790 Adventure. That bike was buttery smooth. It honestly felt like somebody built a giant dirt bike that could also cruise on the highway. It inspired a lot of confidence and I had a blast on it. And then we have my second favorite. We're talking about longer dirt roads and highway stretches. I actually really enjoyed the CF Moto Ibex 450. The handling, the feedback, the smoothness through the bars. It just felt really balanced for that style of riding. The thing is, for years I've been refining what I actually enjoy. I've owned all kinds of bikes, KTM 500, CB 500X way back in the days, KLX 250, 300s, DRZ 400, you name it. Every time I bought another bike, I learned something new about how I actually ride. Now, not how I thought I rode. And unfortunately, it might take years, a few bikes to figure out, I guess, your riding style. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there kind of like me. In these western states, man, I got single track here, but I don't want to take an ADV bike on it and then all of a sudden hop on the highway, or maybe there's some long mile stretches of empty, wide dirt roads, and we still love to take those dirt roads. We like to ride everything in between. Like most of us, like me, I trailer my bikes to the trails. Most of my rides are solo. My goal isn't to ride across 3 states. It's to spend time and the day exploring what that specific area has to offer. I'll connect tight single track to 50-inch ATV trails, then jump onto fast forest roads, then dive right back into technical trails. It's kind of a hybrid adventure ride. The other day I went camping and I did a lot of everything in between, but I ended up doing around 100 miles on a single tank. Everything from technical single track, fast and flowy, but I also wanted to beat the rain. There was no way I could have done this on an ATV bike, but there's also a problem. I even remember dropping my DRZ 400E in a very weird, awkward spot. DRZ 400E, it's not very heavy. It wasn't on a crazy cliff or anything. It was just a weird off-camber situation where you can't get good footing. Even that bike was surprisingly difficult to pick up by myself. So I started asking myself, why am I carrying all this extra weight when 90% of my riding doesn't really need it? And besides, me adventurizing my KTM 300 XCW, believe it or not, it feels almost no different 65 miles an hour on the highway versus any other quote-unquote dual sport. I'm still going back and forth on whether I even want a windscreen on the KTM 300 XCW, but they do sell it, and for sure it will add a lot of comfort. I took my 701 Enduro on the highway around 75 miles an hour and it was brutal. It was not fun. I added a windscreen and it was loads of a difference. I tested the same concept on the KTM 300 XCW, just added a temporary windscreen, and it was a big difference. I was able to cruise 70 miles per hour just fine, in comfort, like I wasn't being pulled back from the seat. Would I ride across an entire state that way? No, probably not, but it's comfortable enough to do some city cruising, hop on the highway, 70 miles per hour for an hour. It's honestly not that bad. This bike definitely surprised me. It handles higher speed dirt roads way better than I expected. It actually feels smoother than my KTM 500 coming off the bottom end into that mid-range. Now this isn't a KTM 500 versus KTM 300 XCW. There are some pros and cons between both of these machines, but that might be for another video. It cruises forest roads just fine. Then when I see random single track disappear into the trees, I don't hesitate, I just go. And that's probably the biggest difference. On an adventure bike, I often found myself asking, should I really take this trail? On a 300, I'm asking, I wonder where this goes. That freedom changes the entire ride. Because the lighter the bike gets, the more options you have. The less you're worried about picking it up, the less you're worried about getting stuck miles from the truck, and the more willing you are to explore. Now don't get me wrong, if I were riding cross country, doing back road discovery routes, camping off the bike with a whole bunch of gear, or spending hours on pavement and nothing but wide roads, yeah, definitely. But the problem with Colorado and a lot of these western states, a lot of it is the unknown. It can instantly change from easy to super technical. But for the way I ride in Colorado, solo, technical, exploring, connecting single track with fast dirt roads, I've realized I don't actually want a bigger bike. I want a lighter one, but let's go ahead and adventurize it, put a bigger sprocket, and then we'll make the gear a little taller. And honestly, this is my unicorn bike right here. The perfect adventure bike isn't always the biggest one. Sometimes it's just the one that makes you excited to take to the trail. And honestly, I'm curious what you guys think. That's my story. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what bike finally made everything click for you. I'll catch you guys on my next video.